Welcome back to the show. I hope you're having a great day. And on today's podcast episode, I want to talk about something that many of us, maybe even everyone, has dealt with at some point in their life. And what I'm talking about here is trying to get traction in your life. So on this podcast episode, I'm going to be sharing two ideas, maybe even things that I think will help you start getting traction. And if you have traction, to help you gain more traction. Now, before we dive into that conversation, I wanted to give you a quick reminder about the Ignite newsletter. Now, this newsletter, it's a free newsletter to you. And when you subscribe to it, it's just my way of communicating with you so you don't miss a thing. So all you need to do to sign up for the newsletter is go to jeffjarena.com/newsletter. And hey, check this out. If you're in sales, if you're in business, or maybe you're an entrepreneur and you want to achieve real success while staying true to your Christian faith and values, I've got something that I think can help you. It's what I call the Success Blueprint, 10 Daily Habits for Faith-Driven Achievers. And you can get it right now for free when you go to jeffjarena.com/success blueprint. Again, that's jeffjarena.com/success blueprint. Now, inside this free downloadable book, which is a very quick read, I might add, you're going to discover the 10 daily habits that set evangelical achievers apart. You're also going to get how to apply biblical success principles to your own business and life, as well as simple action steps to grow spiritually and professionally. And you'll also get a practical roadmap to create lasting, unstoppable success. Now, each habit is backed by scripture, it's easy to apply, and it's designed for real impact. So if you're ready to level up in your business and life without compromising your faith, all you need to do to grab your free copy is go to jeffjarena.com/success blueprint. All right, let's do this. So traction, that word is something I've been thinking a lot about lately. And it's one with respect to my life personally and really my professional career, as well as the businesses that I've owned and the ones that have failed and the ones that I manage now, as well as really anything that I've created and try to market or sell, whether that's one of my books or a course I've created, and even this podcast. Traction is a big deal. And if you've ever tried to start something or build something or sell something, whatever that is, you know that traction is a massive deal. I mean, it really matters. And without it, you just can't get anywhere. If you're not getting somewhere with traction, if you're not moving forward, you're either slipping, you're moving backwards, or you're just plain stuck. And this, for me, at least in terms of this podcast, traction applies to every area of your life. And so whether or not you're starting something new like a business, maybe it's a new side hustle, maybe it's something you just created, it's a creative project, or maybe you're trying to break out of a rut in your career, or maybe it's a relationship that's not going well and you're trying to get that improved, right? Or maybe it's your own personal walk with the Lord. Whatever it is, there comes a point where you're like, okay, if you don't feel like you're moving forward, you're probably thinking, why am I spinning my wheels? Why am I doing all this work and nothing seems to be getting better? Or why don't I feel like I'm moving forward? Or why does it seem like I'm not getting anywhere? I don't know. That's just me. I don't know if you've ever had those thoughts. But if you've ever felt like that, I just want you to know that, man, I know exactly how you feel because I have been there many, many times on multiple occasions. And so today I want to break it down into just two simple, but I think powerful ideas. And so for me personally, I think that in one way, these are a continuation of the podcast where I talked about the benefits of repetition. And if you haven't listened to that particular podcast episode yet, I'll put the link to that podcast in the show notes of this episode so that when you're ready or when you have time, you can go back to listen to that when it's convenient for you. The first idea or the thing that I think that will help you to gain traction in life, whatever that aspect of life that is, whatever area that is for you, I think the first thing here is that you have to do your part. Quite simply, we have to work, right? We have to put in the effort. And right there, to me, that's really where the rubber meets the road. And really where I think a lot of times in the past I've checked out, where I was like, man, I really don't want to work here. I really want to put in the effort here because I don't know if I do that, if I'm actually going to get the results that I want. And if we think about that, that's really the harsh reality here that I know a lot of times that many of us, we feel that way, right? We think that. Okay, well, I don't know if I want to put in the effort. And I don't know if I should do that. I should feel like, things should just come easier. In a lot of ways for me, I don't want to believe this truth here that we have to put in the work. Why can't things just be easier? And it seems like all these people with all this success, that things, seem to be easy for them, that somehow these things have just happened to them and they've got all these accolades, that I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, they really didn't have to work hard. But the truth is, the harsh reality here is that those individuals that look like everything's easy, that they have all these successes, they've got all these accolades and everything seems to work well for them. The truth is they had to work their tail off to get to where they are now. I mean, they've had to spend countless hours and hours and hours working deals, talking to people, getting connections, working their craft, mastering their craft, making the phone calls, and a lot of time praying just to get some sort of success. And what we're seeing right now from them is we're seeing all this hard work now paying off. We didn't see all the stuff they did behind the scenes. And I think here, as we move forward in this podcast episode, I just want to share here that I think that this is a biblical principle. And why I say that is this, that you just can't rely on your faith that God is going to give you what you want. Now, faith is big. It's instrumental. We need that. But we have to do our part, right? We can't just think that, okay, I just keep praying and I know that God is going to work everything out for me, that we're going to get the traction that we're expecting in life. We can't think that without doing our part as well. And I think in most cases, we have to do our part first. And the reason why I say that, I'm going to go right to a scripture verse here that you may have heard me share on multiple podcast episodes. But this verse right here just brings me back here to this part here about we have to put in the effort to get traction. And the verse that I'm talking about is James 4, verse 8. And it says, draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Now think about that. The first part of that verse there, if you want God to get close to you, feel the presence of the Lord, you got to do your part on getting closer to him. You've got to be praying. You've got to be reading scripture. You've got to be worshiping God. You got to be doing these things in order for you to feel that presence of God. Now, he's not going anywhere, but in order for you to feel that presence, for him to get closer, you got to do your part in drawing near to him first. And so think about it again. The first part of that verse is the action from our part. And the second part of that verse is God's response towards us after we do our part first. We have to do some action to gain traction. So let me give you another example here. If you remember here, the story of the parable of the talents, and I'm not going to go through the whole story here. I'm just going to glance over this real quick, just kind of give you a bird's eye view of this. If we look at this in terms of traction, how this aspect of doing work, of putting in some effort to gain traction, if we look at this parable from that aspect, I think you're going to see here that, yeah, Jeff's on to something here. So as we talk about that, you remember in the parable of the talents, the landowner gave his servants, he gave them so many talents to see what they could do with them, right? And after he returned, the one who immediately put his to work doubled his, and the one servant who did nothing with the gold his master gave him, when the master returned, that individual had the same amount he started with. Now remember, one of them doubled those talents. Now, to the one who did the most with his talents, who worked the most, the master said in Matthew 25, verse 21, he said, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I'll put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness." There it is. Traction. Now, I know we can get some other theological stuff here, but just looking at this bird's eye view here from this idea, this thing of putting in the work, of putting in the effort to gain traction in your life, if we see this parable from this aspect, we can all agree here that, yeah, that servant put in some effort. And because of that, he was rewarded. He was able to gain traction. Now, let's look at this in terms of the other servant who did nothing at all, who didn't put forth any work at all. Okay? So to the one who did nothing at all, the master said to him when he returned, he said, "You wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed." And then verse 27 here said, "Well then, you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest." So to me, the master is basically saying, you should have done something. You should have put forth some effort. You should have done some work. I gave you something. You did nothing with it. And because of that, you gained no traction. And so, again, we could obviously get in some really deep theological discussions here. But to me, looking at these verses, again, from a surface level, it seems like the servant who put forth effort, he gained traction. He was rewarded with some amount of success. And the other one who did nothing at all, who didn't put forth any effort, who didn't do any amount of labor at all, okay? He didn't multiply it in any way at all, didn't add to it at all. He actually lost ground because the talents that were given to him were now given to the other servant. And so think about this. When you're creating anything in life, whether it's a book that you're writing, whether it's a project that you're having to put forth, maybe it's a paper you're writing, maybe you're a home builder and you're building homes, whatever it is that you're creating, there's always some sort of effort or labor on our part. And even from the most amazing miracle in life here of birth, think about it. When a mother gives birth to her baby, she had to go into labor. There's a work part of the entire miracle of life. There had to be some labor, some work to create that life. Or how about when you're in school, or maybe you're there now, and when you're trying to learn maybe a specific subject, let's just, for sake of argument here, I'm just going to pick math. And you're trying to learn the multiplication facts. And I remember when I was 8 years old, we had to learn the multiplication facts. And in order for me to do that, I had to memorize the entire multiplication table. I had to work. And the more effort that I put forth into learning those multiplication facts, the quicker and easier I memorize them. And so let's just be real here. Traction doesn't happen if you're not moving forward. You got to be moving in some way. And really, there's just no magic formula here for progress without putting in some type of work. You got to put in some type of effort. And sometimes, we can pray for God to open doors, and that's great. Absolutely. We don't want to stop doing that. But the truth is that God's not going to steer a parked car. We got to be moving some way. You got to start moving. And so let me just give you a real life example here that I remember there were several years ago. I was trying to build a new part of my business out. And I had this vision. I wrote all this stuff down. I was really excited about it. I felt like God was in it. But I just kept waiting really to make the big moves, to kind of move forward. I was kind of doing stuff that I needed to do internally, but I wasn't getting out there. I wasn't, getting the message out there. I wasn't trying to look for clients. And really, I just was stagnant. I think in a way, I think I was afraid. And I kept waiting and I kept waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions. Really, I guess in a way, the green light from God to say, this is it. You need to go for it. This is the time. And you know what happened? Nothing happened. It just seemed like everybody else was moving forward in their life. They were gaining traction while I was just sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting for God to move, to answer my prayers. And when all along, all I really had to do was to start moving, to put in some type of effort. And it wasn't until I said, all right, I'm going to put my head down, I'm going to get to work, I'm going to do some research, I'm going to get some meetings going, I'm going to try to get some contacts, I'm going to try to get some customers. I'm just going to put myself out there. I'm going to spend more time late nights, early mornings, trying to figure this thing out. And it wasn't until I started doing that I really started to gain momentum. And you know, when I started to do that, here's what happened. Doors started to open. I started to get customers. But none of that stuff happened until I started to move, until I put forth the effort. And so with that, I just want to give you a quick verse here, and I hope it serves as a reminder and maybe an encouragement to you. And so the verse here is Proverbs 14, verse 23, and it says, all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. Man, how many times you heard of somebody that, you're talking to somebody and they sound like they're all talk, but there's no action? There it is right there. There's that verse. And so if you think about this, we can talk about traction all day long. We can dream about getting traction in our life. We can pray for traction. But until we get our muscles moving in some direction, we're not going to get any type of traction. And just kind of help you think about this in a different way. There has to be pressure that you apply in your life and on yourself to get moving, to get that traction. And so with that, maybe the question for us and maybe for you to ask is, instead of asking, why am I stuck? Maybe you should be asking, what haven't I done yet? Or what can I do today? And so with that, here's some other things to think about. Maybe for you, it's a conversation that you've been putting off. Or maybe it's a skill that you need to develop. Or maybe there's a step or just a small risk, a small chance that you need to be taken right now. But you're not doing that because you're maybe just a little too afraid to take that. And I get it. I've been there multiple times. But I have to just say, you know what? I've got to step forward. I got to step forward in faith. I've got to actually do some work. And remember here that doing your part is really where the traction begins. That's where you really start getting that movement forward. Now, the second idea that I want to talk about here as it relates to gaining traction, the second thing here is that you need the right equipment. Okay? And what I'm talking about here is the right tools, the right resources, the right software, the proper mindset, whatever that is, we need the right equipment. And we can think about this here, really thinking about this is you need the right shoes, right? If you're going to gain traction in something, if you're walking somewhere or you're walking down the road, or you're trying to get up a mountain, whatever that is, you wouldn't be doing that with dress shoes on, right? You would want to make sure that you would have some sort of hiking boots, some climbing shoes. You don't want to just go up a mountain that's with a slippery surface with dress shoes. You just wouldn't do that, right? In the same way, you can work hard, you can put in a lot of effort, but if you're working with the wrong gear, i.e. the wrong tools, the wrong software, the wrong resources, you name it, you're still going to slip. And you may never move forward, or if you do, it seems like it's taking forever. And at the same time, it may even feel like it's extremely difficult or stressful on you and others around you. So if you can picture this here, I just want to go back real quick to that illustration I was talking about, hiking up a mountain. If you're trying to go up this mountain, trying to scale a mountain, and you're wearing dress shoes or you're wearing shoes that are not hiking shoes or climbing shoes, chances are you're going to slip. You're not going to get any grip. Even though you may be the most determined hiker out there, and you may be super strong, and you may be, really fit, but if you don't have the right shoes on, you're gonna slip. You're not gonna get anywhere. You're gonna lose your footing. Worse yet, you could hurt yourself. And if we think about this, a lot of us are doing that right now in life. We're climbing the mountain of entrepreneurship, or we're trying to build a relationship, we're trying to mend a relationship, or we're trying to learn something new, and we don't have the right tools, we don't have the right equipment, we don't have the right software, whatever that is. We're trying to lead a ministry, and we're not properly equipped. We haven't taken the time to get the right tools, the right mentors, the right mindset. In a way, we're wearing the wrong shoes. And so just to kind of practically break this down for you, what about if you're trying to grow a business? I just want to try to get this out here for anybody out there who's trying to grow a business, and there's some other examples I'll go through here. But what if you're trying to grow a business, and if you don't understand your customer or your market or how to manage the time that you have allotted in your business, you're kind of walking around in dress shoes, so to speak, when you should be wearing maybe jogging shoes or even roofing shoes, something with more grip. And so with that, I know for those of you who are listening to this podcast episode, you can't see this right now, but as I mentioned roofing shoes, this reminded me of my Christmas lighting business. And there's been multiple times that I've had to help the guys that work for me. I've had to help them install Christmas lights. And I remember early on that I didn't want to do it. I did not want to climb up the ladder. I didn't want to get up on the roof. And I was doing that with shoes that really weren't the right type of shoes. And these guys were just scaling the roof like it was nothing, like they were walking on level ground. And I was like, how are these guys doing that? Well, one is they're shorter than me because they have more leverage. But the other thing was they had the right type of shoes. And I would ask them, I said, what are the right type of shoes? And they said, well, you got to wear roofing shoes. I'm like, roofing shoes? I didn't know those existed. And so right now, what I'm showing you guys right now, for those of you that are listening to the podcast, I'm holding up a roofing shoe. And on the bottom of this, it has this pad on it. And you can take this pad out. But it's like this foam rubber that when you put this on the shingles, it sticks. It gives you traction. So you can walk up and down the roof. Now, you're not going to just go run up and down the roof. You want to still be careful. But you can walk up and down this roof and you're not going to slide. And even some steeper roofs, you're not going to have an issue with. And so once I got these roofing shoes, all of a sudden I was able to get what? Traction on the roof. It helped me to climb the roof, to walk on the roof. And it's the same thing in your business. You have to have the right type of equipment. You've got to have the right type of tools, the right type of resources. And it's the same thing if you're trying to deepen your walk with the Lord. If you're not spending time in prayer or reading scripture, there's another resource, there's another tool, God's word. You're going to be walking in a way barefoot up that mountain. Okay? Or how about if you're trying to level up or take the next step in your career? If you haven't updated your skills lately or updated your resume or tried to get some extra coaching in a year or two or maybe even longer than that, you may feel like you're not getting anywhere, like you're stuck, or worse, like you're falling behind. And if we think about a biblical story here, remember the story of David and Goliath. And when David fought Goliath, he didn't walk out there in Saul's armor, right? It didn't fit him. Instead, he chose the equipment, i.e. the tools that were right for him. And sometimes those tools, this is the crazy thing, sometimes those tools can be so simple for us to gain traction. And with David, it was a slingshot and a few smooth stones. I should say a sling. And why was that? Because that's what he knew. It's what he trained with. It's what suited him best. Those tools right there gave him the traction that he needed. So if you could here, I just want you to ask yourself, What shoes are you wearing for the climb that you're on right now? For this part of your personal or professional journey right now? Where are you at this stage in your life? What are those tools that you have right now? And just ask yourself, I would say push in a little bit more here and press in a little bit more here with these questions. Do you need more training? Do you need a coach? Do you need a new approach? Maybe it's not a lack of effort. It's a lack of traction because you're not properly equipped. And I totally get it here. What I'm saying here, it sounds easy, but a lot of times it's not. Getting traction in life can feel frustrating when you're trying and you're trying and you're trying and nothing seems to be working. But I hope here that this podcast, what I share with you today, is going to give you some hope, some encouragement. I hope it's going to be a blessing to you to stay in the fight, to not give up, to get out there and to work and to get the right equipment. And as we close, I want to give you an actionable step. I think this step right here is the one that you can take right now. It's one that I think can give you some traction. And it's one that I think you'll find is simple and it's easy to take. So here's the step. Here it is. I just want you to simply ask yourself 2 more questions. Okay, the first question is, am I doing my part? Am I actually putting in the work consistently? That's the key thing there, consistently. And then the second question is, am I equipped with the right tools, the right mindset, and the right support to handle the path that I'm on? All right, that's it for today's show. I hope it encouraged you. I hope it gave you some practical things and ideas to think about. And if it did, I would just want to ask for you to do me one favor, and that is to simply subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and share this episode with someone else who needs to hear it today. And before you go, I want to remind you to join my newsletter. It's at jeffjarena.com/newsletter. And hey, if you're in sales or in business or you're an entrepreneur and you want to achieve real success while staying true to your faith, I've got something that I think can help you. It's what I call the Success Blueprint, 10 daily habits for faith-driven achievers. So all you need to do to get your free copy now is go to jeffjarena.com/success blueprint. Hey, as I close here, final thing, keep showing up, keep working, keep trying, get the right gear, and remember, traction starts with action. That sounds cheesy, but that's how I'm closing it. Thanks a lot. God bless, and I'll see you in the next episode.